Merhabalar sayın izleyiciler, 7 EXPER programına tekrar hoş geldiniz. Özlem Tuskan, marka danışmanınız olarak karşınızdayım. Bugün benim için çok rahatlatıcı bir formatta ilerleyecek program. İçeriği İngilizce olacak çünkü konuğum ana dili İngilizce. Benim de malum ana dilim İngilizce olduğu için şu an aslında mutluyum. Açık söylemem gerekirse. Ama altta zaten Türkçe çeviriyi okuyor olacaksınız. Bugünkü konuğum çok eski bir arkadaşım, aynı zamanda eski bir dostum. Sasha. Hoş geldin stüdyoya. Sasha is actually the founder, I would say, of one of the most iconic restaurants in Turkey, 360, that was founded 10 years ago and has stood the test of time and is really a very successful restaurant brand in Turkey. And now you have relaunched Rejans, which is again a very historic landmark from 1924. I think the original restaurant was founded.
That's right.
A restaurant that Atatürk himself visited quite regularly.
Which we rebranded now as 1924 Istanbul.
Right. That's the new brand, isn't it? So it's of course, Rejans was the original, and it's now 1924 Istanbul. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Well, great to be here.
Yeah, I'm delighted you found the time. So tell us about 360, because 360, I mean, I remember many years ago being completely thrilled and excited when it launched, and it's in a magnificent building. It has a spectacular view in the heart of Beyoğlu, and it really felt like, you know, an international food experience had come onto our doorstep. And we see in the entertainment industry, in hospitality, in restaurant industry, many brands coming and going in Turkey. But 360 is still there and stronger than ever. What is it that you think is the secret ingredient or ingredients that make it the place it is?
Well, I think let's go back maybe even before 360, when I first arrived in Istanbul, and I came here through actually one of our partners as well, through Emir Uras, who is an architect. And so we had a pact together when we went to boarding school in the UK, that after we had studied and gone through his architecture and my hotel and restaurant university and studies, that we would open a restaurant 20 years later. So 20 years came, and he had traveled around the world, and so had I. And he said, and I was going to open a restaurant actually in Austria, in Vienna at the time, after leaving other cities such as Vegas and San Francisco. So I tried to get a global understanding of where the food direction is going and how to make it hip, in a sense. So when I arrived over here, we opened a small restaurant called Lokal, and it was a very retro kitsch style restaurant, which had everything from samosas to tom kha gais, to ostrich, which my father brought from South Africa with chocolate sauce.
What year was that?
Yeah, this is very early in the day. It's very iconic because it was 2002, 2003.
Right.
So.
Right.
It really set off a tone. And then during that period, Emir was designing 360, and I went up there a couple of times, and I said, wow, you know, first I didn't really want to go and see it because I thought my heart is going to be broken. So I went up. I eventually got the energy to go up there, and I said, oh, wow, what is this place? You know, this is. I mean, I look at places as also being maybe with a foreign eye. So if it gives me that kind of energy and that buzz and that instance, you know, people might say, "Oh yeah, but the location is not good," or "How are you going to get the car here?" or "How, you know, it won't last that long because of you know, it's not in a residential area, and you know, you're going to have locals and all that kind of thing." I think for what its core value is, and you know, at the end of the day, location is really what you're going for.
And I always thought the name was born from the magnificent sort of, well, not quite 360, but quite a dramatic
Definitely.
view
Well, that
of
was
Istanbul.
we went through a couple of names, and as I said, one of my partners also is a chef by nature, Mike, and we came up with, we worked on the concept together on these ideas. So and then Emir was a big influence scholar in the architectural design and also on the naming and the branding. So we tried to keep it as local as possible. Hence my first restaurant, Local, which is a kind of iconic because as much as it was foreign, I had a lot of local base over there. I mean, basically Tunnel was quite hip, and every city and location sometimes moves and shifts. London, Soho was in the days was maybe was hip, and then it went red light, and then it came, now it's come back again. So I think places evolve, and if there's enough of them to support them, then it mushrooms. But chances are that sometimes it will change. And we branded it as 360. So yes, that is part of the view experience, because you have a 360, but it doesn't mean 360 degrees. So we rated it also as Istanbul, which gives it that kind of
anchor.
The anchor. So
and how does the name and the environmental design and the menu experience and the
name transcends into basically everything that's 360. So we definitely, the view is a big part of it. We have the ambience, which is with what I brand as VACE, so the vibe, that's the energy of the place. The ambience is also the actual the location, and then you have the cuisine and you have the entertainment. So the ambience would be also with the design inside there. So it's a glass structure on a very old building. So basically it's like an element of surprise. So once you come into on the street, which is busy normally, a couple of million going up, and you go into this very historic building, which is an Egyptian palace, designed in around about the 1900s, and then you come up, and all of a sudden you come up to this space which is just glass around, and the idea is very minimal, so that really doesn't take the eye off what is really supposed to do, which is the view.
Does it take the eye off the food?
Well, of course, that's the point I'm coming to now. So and then we have the cuisine, and then we have the entertainment section, side to it. So the cuisine is basically, the menu is related to 360, in that you will start in Istanbul, travel around the world, and you come back again. And
so there's something from most continents.
I would say so, yes. But not to forget that its anchor is again in Istanbul. And the menu is laid out so that it's small flavors to share. It is appetizers, which is a meze style, which relates very well to the Turkish palate. And it's fun for the international clients also to be able to order not each and everybody one dish as an appetizer, for instance. So you would, you and I would order, I would order like 4 or 5 dishes. So you get a taste of maybe a styled chii köfte, to a red lentil dumpling, to a tempura, to a duck spring roll, or a ceviche, and even a sushi you could have as a mixed appetizer.
Well, we saw that happening a lot with menus, primarily because people were getting more of an appetite to discover new experiences. So having them in smaller portions allows you to trial things and widen your palate and discover new tastes that you may prefer.
And it's the ability to able to share and to discuss, what you had and what I had, is a conversation piece. And the more people you have, the more it interacts. Rather, I'm just sitting here eating my food, you eating your food, and then maybe we'll talk about something and such. And,
there's actually quite a lot of surprise and delight in the experience, because you've got the menu is always sort of full of new surprises, and as you say, somebody may have chosen something that you may not have considered.
Sure,
You've
and
got
we update the menu regularly, seasonally, and now I think it's progressed. 10 years is really it's quite a time,
know-how.
And for any restaurant to live that longevity is must be doing something.
Absolutely.
And also, we're doing our cocktails. We're working on some very interesting ones, and we're changing all the time on the craft side. And
are you adopting this alco health trend now where the cocktails, people are looking for an alcoholic experience that doesn't necessarily leave them with a hangover the following morning.
100%. Well, that's why brands have really worked on their alcohol so that it's not what it used to be in the old days, and you get such premiums inside that are double filtered, triple filtered, silver filtered, platinum filtered, and you name it for you not to have a headache. I mean, even last night I was out to a bar and I was quite surprised, and I had a few drinks, but I managed to still be here this morning, although I might not be looking a little bit starry-eyed. But
you look fabulous, especially the shirt. I love you.
Well, yeah, that's another thing, because I mean, clothing for me is great, and I'd love to be some form of fashion designer, but at least I'm able to pull it off in some way and wear it. And I bought this cloth, for instance, in Hong Kong, and I took it to my tailor here in Istanbul, and I gave him the design. He came up with it, as much as my jeans, which you can't see as well, and so the clothing. Try to keep that's part of the design element inside there too. Entertainment is a big important part as well. So we have.
I've always been surprised by the actual format of entertainment as well during the dining experience. Yeah,
so there's a little element inside there. It's not be able to distract you too much, so that it's not like now stop watching the show, but turns out to be, depending on the entertainer. But it adds a crucial part to the 360 experience.
Will that continue, do you think, going forward?
Yeah, I think we changed. We tried to come up with sometimes it's a vocalist, sometimes it's a very creative act. You might have people hanging off the chimneys or. That's a little bit of an element of surprise, so as people aren't aware of what is going to happen. Then we work on those to really mold into the event, and then also on the weekends at 12 o'clock the music starts to change a little bit, like 11 o'clock, into like a deeper house kind of style, and then turns into a club, and then with the club element, and then we have a new arrivals coming in who are just coming there to dance, and we featured
have a drink.
We featured quite a few interesting DJs and such. But of course, the end of the day also is that we have a great bar, so just to come up there for a cocktail or sundown a cocktail is all part of the experience.
So how do you think Turkish sort of appetite for experimenting in cuisine has changed? How do you see? I know that a large proportion of your clientele are international.
Sure. Well, that happened to be just in the time because Turkey was going through this possibility. Well, it's still a possibility to join the EU. So all eyes were on Turkey, as they are today as well,
maybe for different reasons.
Well, I mean. Still, it means eyes on Turkey. So, and we're possibly joining the EU, and quite a few cameramen and newscasts and such. They came. They wanted to get a juicy story so that they could show really what Istanbul is about. And so we opened in 2005. So they, through another close friend of mine who's a journalist, she's a war photographer, quite a well-known one actually. She's even going to have a film out with Steven Spielberg because they bought the rights. And she recommended this one photographer come over and see me and said, you've got to shoot this place because nobody shot it before. It's going to be, you'll see it, it's going to be. So he came over and I said to him, listen, I'm going to take you to your place, I'm going to go take you to the roof. So he took a picture of the roof with a 360 of a view with our terrace and the church and the mosque and everything in the back. I guess he must have shown that to his editor-in-chief, and the guy said, that's the one, that's it. I mean, Istanbul, right in front of a church, join the EU, restaurant, modern, cuisine that's has entertainment, and then you got the whole mosque and the tropical in the back. And after that, we were high in demand. I mean, there was news press that I was in interviews that were three. There could be like an English, there could be an American, there could be an Italian, all at once. So
what I mean, given the current situation with Turkey's tourism industry, having taken quite a blow from the political events that are happening, how is 360 trying to weather this period that we're in right now in terms of the drop in international visitors to Turkey?
As I said, back again to our original name, Istanbul, 360 Istanbul. So I believe in the beginning our main product was for the Turks, and they might have, taste palettes might have changed. They might not like this DJ, or people. 10 years is a long time. So if you imagine, if you might even outgrown 360. So we have to go back to our core, which we're doing, and we're marketing towards also maybe a newer generation that 10 years has moved out, and then the 10 years is coming in.
And you're actually opening more branches.
And we were opening more branches. So actually, I mean, and we're talking about Beyoğlu. So that one, yes, is international. However, we've got 360 in Moda, which is very local, and that's on top of the Hilton DoubleTree. So and there, I mean, people you say, "No, you're crazy. Are you going over to, why? There's nobody living there. There's more people living there than on this side, and they have hungry to go out as well. But you need to really believe in your product and for it to continue. So, and I think that element is, and we're on Suada as well, and opening now in sometime in Izmir. Yeah.
Congratulations. What would you recommend a new restaurant startup? There's a lot of cafe owners and little independent entrepreneurs in the food and drink industry that are making investments in locations of some kind or another. What would you recommend a startup, given that you are actually one of the most established brands in that industry in Turkey?
Well, I mean, if I could touch on maybe a couple of other brands, we have also now just recently opened up, but for historic reasons, and it's iconic location, which was, as I mentioned before, the old historic Regents, which is now 1924, and we really wanted to pay homage to a great tradition, and bring it back to life again, which was so historic. So, if your question is on that, we invested in a little ethnic restaurant, in ethnic meaning that it's.
It has a story.
It has a story to it.
It has a legendary story. I mean, you've even reserved the table there, the Atatürk that
on the side. Yeah, I mean, he used to come. We have his own table, which is
and it's reserved. It's reserved the whole time, so you can't actually
it's written it's on reserved forever. So
and you've really kept the atmosphere, the ornate decoration,
that's definitely,
and the culture.
Definitely true. We got music inside there. We have instruments from Russia. That there's a piano and there's a harpist, and then we have. The wooden panels are very important, and you have that kind of old, you wouldn't be, if you walked in there in the 1940s, nobody would ever blink an eye kind of.
So how would you link that to the advice to a startup?
Yeah, so of course, those are very interesting pieces, because if you have the opportunity to get something that is really close to somebody's heart, then you're already in the running, you don't have to, you're already landing running. So
is it a story? Is it?
So I think yes. I think yes. With so many places that are opening up, there's a lot of cafes, and there's a lot of beef hamburger places, and then there's a lot of steakhouses. I mean, that's the trend anyway. And I read these trends, 5-6 years ago, or more than that, when I was coming from London. And I mean, had I probably invested in those, I would also be telling you that I've got steakhouse, beef house, and such.
Well, you came to our last trend briefing.
But I did,
for the food and drink industry,
so
we did with 2 years, which is the association.
No, I mean that's those are, and exactly, and a lot of the trends as well. Which is that farm to restaurant or farm to table is that's really quite trending. And also the style where you would transform your restaurant into somebody else would come in, or like a guest chef, or even kit out the whole restaurant, which is a little bit more expensive to do.
Change the concept.
Change
so
the concept. Yeah, spin the concept over. I mean, we
like
could do that.
Pop-up restaurants, but in the same location.
Yeah. And these markets are very trendy as well. I've seen them in London and around the world now, where they're really. It's not like you go in there really having a chef dinner almost in a market atmosphere.
Yeah, and that's from this desire for people to really understand who is behind whatever they're consuming, whatever product or service they're experiencing. They want to know who made it, where it was made, how it's made,
Sure.
and really get into the background story of that.
But Turks have got great, I mean, traditionally they've got great food concepts. You know, you've got the
They've got a very diverse palate, haven't they?
the
From
doner,
salty
which
to
is a
sweet.
meat, you know, which is everybody knows from everywhere around the world. It's even you know, best-selling fast food in Germany, you know, besides from their own Wurst, you know. So and then you have all the other foods, which are also like fish and mezes. Of course, the kebabs are great. So to compete with those, when you know people want to have their traditions at the end. So in that sense,
but Turkish palate is actually really diverse. So you have you know, sweet and sour. You have spicy, hot. You have cold olive oil dishes.
Yeah.
So we've actually got quite a diverse palate. So we could push ourselves in terms of, you know, experimenting more, but we just have a very traditional, habitual approach to the kinds of dishes that we choose. So actually keeping it within traditional boundaries perhaps, but being more experimentative with local ingredients.
well, that's what we're doing in that's
recipes.
360. That's
Right.
what we do over there. So we try to take those traditional, which you mentioned, elements, and give it a little bit of a spin. Not too much, so that it's out there and not palatable or too experimental.
So then, just to wrap up, that what you would recommend to anybody entering the industry to monitor, to really closely understand where consumer behavioural trends
I think
are going.
definitely, but you need to really have a strong product now. You need to, you know, training needs to be good. You need to really understand the service, but you need to understand really what you're serving. That is a really good coffee. It needs to be a good hamburger. It can't be, you know, something that you might have not researched properly. You know, the ingredients that you're making inside there. I mean, Italian food is so basic if you really think about it. It's really about the ingredients side. You might think a pizza or a pasta, but it's all about what you put inside that
And
the
what
love. And if you
absolutely,
really love it,
absolutely.
it will come through.
And it's, you know, in addition to the quality, there is a growing belief that if you do less, you're doing it better. So whereas before we would say, you know, less is more, it's actually less is better. So the understanding from the customer or from the consumer is that, you know, if they're only doing hamburgers, then they've got to be doing this well. And usually they are, because that is the primary focus of their
that's why
attention.
they've come up so well at the moment.
Yeah.
They've taken over all the fast food chains that had previously done. You can say it's a hamburger, but actually that's not true, because it's really what you put
Yeah, it's a lot
inside
of
there.
craft you can
Yeah.
put into it. I could talk to you about this for hours.
Yeah,
It's one of
sure,
my
yeah.
favourite subjects.
Food is a big part.
As a real foodie myself as well. But I
and
look
there's so many
forward
concepts that have come in as well. You know,
Yeah,
there's
very exciting.
You know, and some have survived, some have not survived.
Yeah.
You know, there was the Asian trend. You know, when I opened Locale, I really tried to open everyone's palate to, you know, when I put coriander in the days, they were Turks. They said to me, don't put coriander, or they swore at the chef, or somebody said that I'm going to faint, or take me to the hospital. I can tell you, and these are all, you know, amazing stories like that. But you know, I pursued it and went through. I said, no, this is the dish, and
Yeah.
I think
Great.
people
Courage.
change
So
over,
courage.
people change
Courage
over
of-
time, and they get to know. And you know, sushi was you know, it's still trending.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining.
And then, as I
joining
mentioned before,
me.
I got bicycles as well. You know, that's another. As much as you drink and you eat, you need to get into
That's right,
to sport as
you're
well.
also
we have
owner of a bicycle brand that's growing quite rapidly, and it's growing as a sport in Turkey.
Yes,
as
I mean,
much
you had
as it is.
recently the presidential tour, you know, that was around Turkey, and goes Cappadocia and then all
So
places.
you eat it and then you burn it with your...
Exactly. Well, you need to keep in shape.
with your,
you know?
it's a nice combination. Okay. Well,
Oh,
I
great.
could, I could continue this conversation with you. It's been a delight talking to you. Thank you so
Pleasure.
much for joining my
Great.
show.
We'll do that part 2 next time.
And we've got more to talk about. I mean, we haven't even touched on your new ventures, but I'm sure I'll be seeing you over the summer
Great.
dining
Yeah,
over that
anytime.
fantastic view of yours at 360.
Perfect. Great.
Evet, bu haftalık bu kadar. Bu hafta İngilizce oldu programımız. Haftaya tekrar Türkçe olarak karşınızda olacağım. Görüşmek üzere.